All right, if you were here earlier, then you know that I spent about 7 years total working in this horrible, barren, disturbing industry called youth ministry. And to go into youth ministry, though, one of the things I had to do was I had to go to a thing called divinity school. Now, hey, Patrick, I know I wrote PG-13, so I get one F-bomb, right?
Many as you want, man.
I get my one?
Sky's the limit, babe.
Okay, all right. So what people don't seem to know about divinity school, where all the pastors train, is that for a lot of the pastors, that's where they kind of get stuff out of their system. So there's actually a surprising amount of like drinking and fucking and pot, and it's kind of awesome. It was kind of surreal coming out of them and like going and working in church the next day. I remember my worst hangover I ever had was there was 1 year where Halloween was a Saturday night and All Saints Day was a Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was the worst. Spice Drum and I have never agreed since.
Oh.
Anyway though, the particular incident I want to talk to you about took place during divinity school, and it was something that my group of friends came to know as the evil Mr. Clean incident for reasons that will become obvious as the story continues on. So this was in the first few weeks of divinity school. We were all kind of getting to know each other. There was this great thing where we were all kind of like trying to discern like how obnoxiously holy everybody else was going to be. You know, because like I would get to know a girl and kind of be like, oh, you seem really cool. How weird are you? Like, you know, or I'd be getting to know a guy in the class and be like, yeah, you seem really cool. Are you gonna ask me about like accountability shit? Like, you know, what is it? Just kidding, I didn't know what accountability was yet. Anyway though, so as we're getting to know all these people, had the brilliant idea. Let's take everybody out to a bar. And let's just all hang out, and we're gonna be able to tell really quickly who's cool and who's not based on who's ordering what. And so we all go to this bar in town that was called Bull McCabe's. And the cool thing about Bull McCabe's was when you looked around the room, this was an absolute like future pastor wet dream of a bar, because the booths were made out of old church pews that had been sawed up and, you know, attached to the wall. When you looked at the shelves in the bar, there were all these old dusty books. It's like, wait, these are hymnals. Whoa, this is like the most obnoxiously theology bar I've ever been. There was even stained glass in there. The light fixtures were old chapel chandeliers. It's like, all right, if this is a place where like, this has got to be the place where future pastors are going to get drunk and hook up. Like, absolutely. There's not a more perfect venue than that. Bull McCabe's Irish Pub, Durham, North Carolina. Woo! Anyway though, so we take a big group out to go to Bull McCabe's. And there were a couple of people with us that night. Some key players in this story. People you need to know. My roommate, Phil. Phil is one of the nicest dudes ever, completely and totally easygoing, and absolutely oblivious to the fact that girls are into him. And so, Phil took his friend Kat with him, not realizing that she thought it was a date. Oops. Phil was not one of those future pastor folks. Phil was an environmental studies student, and that's the reason that our apartment always smelled like pot, but whatever. Also, we have with us my friend Becca. Becca and I met because of an important lesson. If you find yourself in a work environment where there are large orientations that you have to sit through, or frequent meetings, always keep a granola bar with you. And the reason for it is this. When Becca and I were sitting down in orientation on the very first day of class, I started hearing this noise next to me, something kind of like... And I looked over and, you know, here is this cute little young lady with a southern accent and an eyebrow piercing and like cool streaks dyed in her hair, whose stomach is just sounding like an angry 200-pound bull mastiff waiting for dinner. So I reached into my bag and I pulled out a granola bar and I handed it to Becca, and we have been friends ever since. She was in Jesse's and my wedding. She's awesome. And so Becca was there that night. Another key player you need to know is me. I was there as well. I know tonight's theme is innocence, nonsense. Well, the thing you need to know about my innocence at that point is that I was innocent in that I thought I was a nice guy. It's a terrible, terrible syndrome that happens to a lot of guys in their 20s, that we think we're nice when actually we are complete and total dicks, and I had no idea. But looking back at that night, I'm like, oh shit. We'll get there. Two other key players, and how they are going to come into this story I'll introduce them in medias res as the action continues. We all walked into the bar, we're all having a good time, the night is going well, and I look over in a corner and see a good buddy of mine and a girl who I had kind of noticed early on during some of those orientations and thought was kind of cute, and I was like, oh cool. What I did not know is that they had been dating. More on that later. Her name was Kelly. His name is Slagathor. I don't know. We'll protect him. I feel bad for this guy. And in the meantime, one of the other things going on. I know we're setting a lot up with this scene, but believe me, every component will pay off. There's this random guy who none of us know. Like, he's not even like a friend of a friend thing. There's just this random dude who's kind of like inserted himself into our friend group, and he's not one of the future pastors, so like he's not trying to impress anybody, so like he's just going around being like, double vodkas, everybody. He's this really big burly dude with a shaved head and an earring, and we were like, okay, whatever, man, yeah. All right, let's do this. And so I decide that, after checking in with some friends and everything, I'm gonna focus on that table in the corner. And so I slide on in and sit down next to my buddy whose name I'm not revealing and start talking to the girl sitting across from him, not realizing that she has just dumped him. Yeah, I was not the nice guy that I thought I was. I was not so innocent. But meanwhile, you need to know what was going on in the room. Because this guy, with the shaved head and the earring, the big muscles, the intimidating gentleman who none of us really knew, was going around buying drinks for everybody. And he was particularly interested in buying drinks for the ladies. This is a sketchy, sketchy dude. And so my roommate, Phil, being the nice guy that he is, every time this sketchy dude comes around with another couple of drinks for an attractive lady somewhere in the room, Phil was an absolute cockblocker to this creepy asshole. Because Phil is the real hero of this story. And so every time this creepy guy came around with 2 double vodkas, Phil would step in, take one, shoot it for the team. I have no idea how much vodka Phil consumed that night. We completely lost count, and of course I'm oblivious to all of this because I'm completely engrossed in the girl who just dumped one of my friends. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the room, my friend Becca's having a good night. She's getting to know people, things are going well, when all of a sudden she feels a big, muscular, sweaty arm come down around her shoulders, and a big, creepy, bald guy with an earring waves to the bartender for another couple of double vodkas. I don't know where Phil was at that point. Probably near passing out on the girl who thought it was a date. And so at this point though, I've, been talking to this girl, I'm really interested, and at this point, I don't know what prompted me, what silent nudging inspired me to suddenly look around the room and see the shit show that was going on, because I look over, and again, we've got drunk future pastors trying to hook up with one another, we're looking at not quite a 2 a.m. scramble, it's like a 1 a.m. scramble at that point. If you don't know what a 1 a.m. scramble is, yeah, we should all know that one. Anyway, though, so it happens among future pastors too. But that's when I look up and see a big, sweaty, scary, bald guy with an earring with an arm around one of my best friends. I see that my roommate is just about passed out in a booth. In fact, he even looked at me and just goes, you pastors party hard. I was like, oh shit. And I look at all this going on, and I look back at the girl I was interested in, and the exact words out of my mouth were, hey, I'd really like to continue this another time. I gotta go save my friend from an evil Mr. Clean. And so I went over. I saw my roommate collapsing on the ground. I saw what was going on with Becca and this big creepy dude, and I'm like, got it, brainstorm. Becca, help me carry Phil home. And so sure enough, we did exactly that. You need to know that my roommate Phil was a bodybuilder, and so we have me, even scrawnier than I am now, and my friend Becca, who is again tiny little southern Becca, trying to carry my huge ripped roommate out of a bar while he's reeking of vodka. But you know what? Phil took one for the team because Phil is the real hero of this story. I don't know what happened to the girl who thought that was a date with Phil, but I'm sure things worked out okay. Actually, she's like happily married. Everything worked out there. I don't know that, but I'm assuming it to give everybody a good feeling. But anyway, that's how things never worked out with that girl. But I still have one of my best friends, Becca, still in my life, in our wedding. My roommate Phil proved time and again after that he is the true hero of the story, continually being a nice guy the entire years through divinity school. Those 3 strange years of future pastors getting drunk and hooking up with one another and all kinds of crazy shenanigans going on. But friendships were forged that night. Bonds were made. And I like to think that a little bit of it was because of an evil Mr. Clean who vanished into the mists and we never saw again. Thank you.